Welcome to our consultant pay progression video. What is pay progression? When a consultant reaches a pay affecting increment date, they will progress to the next pay step point, providing they have met the required performance standards. The performance standards for pay progression are an appraisal completed within the last 12 months and outcomes in line with the Trust's appraisal procedure. No formal capability process or formal disciplinary sanction in place at the date of the pay step point. 85% or more of all statutory and/or mandatory training has been completed. The consultant has met standards of conduct governing private work. They have engaged in the job planning process and they have undertaken offers of APAs prior to undertaking private work. Where performance standards have not been achieved for reasons beyond the employee's control, the consultant will not be prevented from progressing on to the next pay point if the other criteria have been met. How to know when a meeting is due. Both manager and consultant will receive notifications to make them aware that a pay progression meeting is due. Manager and consultant will receive a notification via ESR workflow notifications. They will also receive an email notification via the Medical Directorate team. 6 months, 3 months, and 1 month prior to pay step date. Managers can check when a pay progression meeting is due via the workforce dashboards, and the consultant can view their pay step date via the ESR employee portal. The meeting takes place to determine if standards have been met. The meeting is held as soon as possible to ensure that the pay step is processed in time. If standards are met, pay progression is achieved. If standards are not met, pay progression is not achieved. If it is agreed that the consultant can meet the standards prior to the pay step date, remedial action is put in place. The consultant follows the remedial action plan. If the remedial action is achieved before the pay progression date, the standards are met and pay progression is achieved. If the remedial action is not achieved before the pay progression date, the standards are not met and pay progression is not achieved. If the consultant has not met the standards, the clinical manager raises this with the collaborative chair to discuss an action plan for the year. The decision is then escalated to the Workforce Deputy Medical Director, who will decide if to override or uphold the decision. If the decision is upheld, the pay progression is deferred for 1 year. If the decision is overridden, the pay progression is approved. The decision has now been made to either defer or approve the pay step. The pay step review form is completed and emailed to the Medical Directorate team, who will add the meeting to the ESR system, which will allow the uplift or deferral to be processed by payroll. If there are any outstanding actions, the Medical Directorate team will email the manager. For example, if the form is incomplete, the manager will be emailed. If the pay step is deferred, the manager will be emailed with the outcome letter and action plan to be completed. Where an employee's pay progression point has been deferred, the employee has the right to appeal in writing within 14 calendar days of the notification of the decision. An appeal will be heard and resolved within 3 months of receipt. When submitting an appeal, the employee must set out the grounds for their appeal. The appeal should be heard by an appeal panel, comprising of the Executive Medical Director, Chief Operating Officer and Director of People Services. If the appeal is not upheld, the pay step is deferred and this is the end of the process. If the appeal is upheld, the clinical manager will inform the Medical Directorate team of the outcome. The decision will then be updated on ESR by the Medical Directorate team, and this will conclude the process. The employee must be informed of the outcome of their appeal in writing within 14 calendar days of the date of the meeting. This is the final decision and the end of the formal procedure. There are some useful guidance documents and templates on the intranet. Please see details on the screen of some useful contacts. Thank you for watching.